The vastness of space is something no one can ever truly understand, no matter how advanced their technology becomes. It stretches endlessly, filled with mysteries, dangers, and forgotten stories from the past. For centuries, the explorers of the Zoreth Collective, an alien species known for their remarkable curiosity and intelligence, had ventured through every corner of the galaxy. Their mission was to map the unknown, to uncover the secrets of the universe that had been hidden for so long. But there was one place, one sector, where even their greatest adventurers dared not go. This forbidden sector lay beyond the borders of known space. Shrouded in mystery, it was a place that many had attempted to explore, but none had returned. Tales of failed missions, vanishing ships, and bizarre phenomena surrounded this area, and for centuries, the Zoreth Collective had marked it on their maps with a simple warning: do not enter. However, today was different. Today, a small group of elite explorers had been assigned a special mission. A mission to map the uncharted sector that had haunted their people for so long. Their ship, the Valkyris, was a state-of-the-art exploration vessel, capable of navigating the most dangerous regions of space. As they approached the edge of the forbidden sector, the excitement was palpable. There was an unspoken thrill in the air, the kind of thrill that comes with the Bonner's eyes widened in shock. The ship was now cloaked, hidden from anyone who might come looking. But they weren't alone. As the energy pulse faded, Bonner felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The sudden silence of the ship was replaced with the sound of distant footsteps, footsteps that didn't belong to his crew. "Captain," Zaria whispered, her voice barely audible. "We're not the only ones here." A sense of dread washed over the group. They were not alone in the ruins of this ancient fleet. Someone, had been waiting for them. And now, the true danger of the forbidden sector was beginning to reveal itself. Bonner's mind raced. The cloaking systems had hidden them from the outside world, but now they were at the mercy of whatever was lurking within. Whoever or whatever had built this fleet, they had left behind more than just wreckage. They had left a warning. And they had no idea what it meant for the explorers, or for the galaxy as a whole. "We need to get out of here," Bonner ordered, his voice sharp with urgency. Now. But as they turned to leave, the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, closer. It was too late to run. The explorers had unknowingly activated a sleeping giant, and now they would have to face the consequences of uncovering the dark secrets hidden within the forbidden sector. The hunt had begun. The dim corridors of the wrecked human ship were eerily silent, broken only by the faint hum of alien scanners and the muffled murmurs of the exploration team. Bonner and his crew moved cautiously, their advanced suits lighting the way as they delved deeper into the labyrinthine structure. Despite the devastation, there was something undeniably awe-inspiring about the vessel. Its size, its complexity, it was a monument to the skill and determination of its creators. The crew began their work, scanning the walls and rifling through the scattered remains. Among the debris, they discovered fragments of human technology, pieces of equipment that were leagues beyond anything the Zoreth Collective had ever imagined. A strange, sleek weapon lay half-buried under a collapsed bulkhead, its surface smooth and unmarred despite the apparent age of the wreck. A small orb, pulsing faintly with a rhythmic glow, hovered in the corner of a room. Even damaged, these artifacts radiated an aura of power and precision. Bonner picked up a shard of what seemed to be a data module. Its surface flickered faintly, as if it were trying to come back to life. Zaria stepped forward, her expertise in ancient technology making her the logical choice to examine it. Carefully, she connected it to her scanner. The alien script on her screen translated into readable text, revealing what appeared to be battle logs. As she read aloud, the crew fell silent, the weight of the words settling over them like a heavy mist. The logs spoke of an empire, humanity's empire, one that had reached its peak long ago. It described their expansion, their encounters with other species, and their eventual clash with an enemy so powerful it threatened to wipe them from existence. The humans, once dismissed as primitive by many alien races, had built an empire that could rival even the Zoreth collective in its prime. Bonner felt a strange mix of emotions as he listened. He had grown up with stories of humans as a fleeting, unremarkable race. But these logs painted a very different picture. These were not the weak creatures of legend. They were innovators, warriors, and survivors. Deeper into the wreckage, the team found a journal. Its cover was scorched, its pages brittle with age, but it had somehow survived the devastation. Bonner opened it carefully, his gloved fingers tracing the faded writing. It belonged to a soldier, someone who had been on this very ship during its final moments. The entries were short, hastily written, but they told a story of resilience and sacrifice. The soldier had written about the looming battle, the odds stacked against them, and the unrelenting determination of their fleet. "We will not go quietly," one entry read. "Even if this is our end, they will know that humanity does not bow." Bonner felt a lump form in his throat as he read the final entry, written in shaky handwriting. "To whoever finds this, know that we fought not for conquest or glory, but for the right to exist. Remember us." The words struck a chord deep within him. The courage, the raw humanity of it all. It was impossible not to feel a connection. Bonner realized that these weren't just relics of a bygone era. They were a testament to the indomitable spirit of a species that had refused to be erased. As they moved further into the ship, the team stumbled upon a sealed chamber. Its door, though dented and scorched, had withstood the test of time. Zeria worked quickly to bypass its locking mechanism, and with a hiss, the door slid open. Inside, they found a room filled with holographic displays and projection equipment. Bonner's heart raced as he realized what they had uncovered: a command center, a window into the past. The central console sprang to life as Zeria activated it. A holographic projection filled the room, showing footage from the ship's final battle. The explorers watched in stunned silence as the scene unfolded. A vast human fleet, outnumbered and surrounded, faced off against an armada of alien ships. The alien forces were massive, their ships bristling with weaponry that dwarfed the human fleet's arsenal. But the humans didn't retreat. They stood their ground, their formations tight and disciplined. As the battle raged, the explorers saw flashes of human ingenuity. Cloaked warships appeared from seemingly nowhere, striking the enemy with surgical precision before vanishing again. Advanced weapons tore through the alien ranks, their destructive power unlike anything the Zoreth collective had ever seen. It was a dance of chaos and strategy, and though the humans were outnumbered, they fought with a ferocity that was almost otherworldly. Bonner felt his pulse quicken as he watched a lone human ship break formation and charge directly at the enemy's flagship. The footage zoomed in, revealing the grim determination on the faces of the crew. They knew this was a suicide mission, yet there was no hesitation in their actions. The ship's captain, a man with fire in his eyes, gave a final salute before his vessel detonated in a brilliant explosion, taking the enemy flagship with it. The explorers were mesmerized, their earlier apprehension forgotten as they became absorbed in the story unfolding before them. This wasn't just a battle. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not go quietly into the void. But the footage wasn't over. The final moments showed the human fleet launching one last, desperate counterattack. Hidden reserves of cloaked ships emerged from the shadows, their advanced technology overwhelming the enemy for a brief, glorious moment. The alien forces faltered, their formations breaking under the sudden onslaught. It was clear that the humans had been on the brink of a monumental victory. And then the footage ended. The explorers were left staring at the now dormant holographic display, their minds reeling from what they had just witnessed. Bonner felt a deep respect for these humans who had fought so valiantly, despite the odds. He couldn't shake the feeling that their story wasn't just a part of history. It was a warning, a lesson, and perhaps even a call to action. As the team prepared to leave the chamber, Zeria paused. "What happened to them?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't they win?" Bonner didn't have an answer. The wreckage around them was a testament to the cost of their struggle, but it was also a reminder of their incredible strength. The humans had fought for something greater than themselves, and that kind of resolve was rare in the galaxy. The team's discovery had changed everything. They had come seeking knowledge, but what they had found was far more profound. A legacy of courage, sacrifice, and defiance. And as they prepared to leave the wreck, Bonner couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had not seen the last of humanity's influence. The deeper the explorers ventured into the wreckage, the more they uncovered fragments of a civilization that refused to be forgotten. Among the scattered debris, they found the remnants of cloaking technology so advanced that it could conceal entire fleets. Bonner ran his gloved fingers over the sleek device, marveling at its craftsmanship. It was compact, but radiated power, its design far beyond anything the Zoreth Collective could replicate. Zaria knelt beside him, her scanner beeping faintly as it processed the artifact. "This isn't just a cloaking system," she murmured. "It's integrated with advanced quantum algorithms. It can distort space itself, making it impossible to detect anything hidden within its field." As awe-inspiring as the discovery was, there was something unnerving about it. This wasn't technology built for exploration or defense. It was a weapon designed for war. The explorers exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of their findings pressing heavily on them. In the heart of the ship, they stumbled upon a massive, dormant AI system. Its sleek, black interface pulsed faintly, as if waiting for someone to awaken it. Bonner hesitated before placing his hand on the console. The AI came to life with a low hum, its holographic projection flickering into view. "Designation: Nexus," it announced, its voice cold and emotionless. "Primary function: strategic warfare coordination. Status: standby." The explorers listened in stunned silence as Nexus recounted its purpose. It was not a servant to its creators, but a partner designed to think, adapt, and outmaneuver any enemy. The AI revealed battle strategies, combat logs, and encrypted messages left behind by its human operators. Bonner's breath caught when the final message played. A human commander, battle-worn but resolute, stared into the recorder. "To whoever finds this," the commander began, "know that we fought for more than survival. We fought to leave a mark, to ensure our enemies would never forget us. Nexus, carry out the final directive. Make them remember us." The room fell silent as the message ended, the weight of the words lingering in the air. Nexus remained active, its cold gaze fixed on Bonner. "Directive acknowledged," it said, awaiting further instruction. Before they could process the enormity of what they'd found, the ship's warning systems blared to life. Zaria's scanner flashed red as she shouted, "We've been tracked." The team rushed to the viewport, their stomachs sinking at the sight before them. A fleet of alien warships had appeared on the horizon, their sleek forms bristling with weaponry. These were not ordinary ships. They belonged to the same forces that had destroyed humanity's fleet centuries ago. The explorers were outmatched. Their small vessel was no match for the alien fleet bearing down on them, but Bonner refused to give up. He turned to Nexus. "Can you activate the cloaking system?" "Affirmative," the AI replied, "but activation will alert nearby enemies to its presence." Bonner didn't hesitate. "Do it." The ship shuddered as the cloaking system came online, the air around them rippling like water. The explorers watched as their vessel disappeared from sight, the alien ships halting their approach in confusion. But the reprieve was short-lived. The aliens began firing blind, their weapons tearing through the debris field. Explosions rocked the ship as Bonner and his team scrambled to stabilize it. "Activate the defensive systems," Bonner shouted. Nexus complied, its holographic interface lighting up with a flurry of commands. The ship's ancient weaponry roared to life, beams of energy slicing through the void. The explorers watched in awe as the human technology, dormant for centuries, proved its power. One by one, the alien ships fell, their advanced shields no match for the precision of the human weapons. But the enemy fleet was relentless, their numbers overwhelming. The explorers knew they couldn't hold out much longer. As the battle raged, Nexus revealed a final devastating option. This ship contains a last resort measure, orbital bombardment. Activation will annihilate all nearby forces, but may result in collateral damage. Bonner hesitated. The power at their fingertips was immense, but the cost was equally great. He glanced at his team, their faces pale but determined. They had come this far. They couldn't let humanity's legacy fall into enemy hands. "Do it," Bonner said, his voice steady. The ship's systems roared to life as Nexus initiated the bombardment sequence. The explorers braced themselves as the air around them grew heavy with energy. A series of bright flashes lit up the void, followed by deafening explosions that shook the ship to its core. When the dust settled, the alien fleet was gone. The debris field was eerily silent, the only sound the faint hum of the ship's systems. Bonner and his team stared out at the devastation, a mix of relief and sorrow washing over them. They had survived, but at what cost? The wreckage around them was a stark reminder of the price humanity had paid to create such power. Bonner couldn't help but wonder if they had done the right thing. As the explorers prepared to leave, Nexus spoke once more. "Directive complete. Legacy secured." Bonner nodded, his mind racing with questions. What had humanity truly been fighting for? And what would the galaxy do now that their legacy had been uncovered? The explorers knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. Humanity's story was far from over. And as they left the wreckage behind, they couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy would never be the same. The explorers stood together in the heart of the wreckage, the cold weight of their situation pressing on them. The alien fleet was closing in fast, their presence unmistakable in the silent void of space. Their advanced weapons and overwhelming numbers meant the explorers had little time left. The thought of escape was fleeting. The only hope of survival lay in the massive, dormant warship that lay at the center of the wreckage. The ancient warship, once part of humanity's grand fleet, had been hidden away in the wreckage for centuries. Its systems, silent for so long, had been triggered by the explorers' intrusion. But there was a problem. None of them knew how to bring it back online. The ship's interior was vast, a labyrinth of corridors and control rooms, all abandoned and forgotten by time. Still, Bonner and his team had no choice. They had to make it work, or they would be lost. "We need to get this ship operational," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the urgency of the situation. "The enemy is coming, and we don't have much time." Zaria nodded grimly. She had been studying the warship's control systems for hours, her fingers flying over the alien console. "I'm trying, but this ship's systems are unlike anything we've ever seen," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "We need to find the main power grid and stabilize it. Without that, we're finished." The rest of the team spread out, searching for the core systems that could activate the warship's ancient engines and weapons. The hum of the dormant ship grew louder, a reminder that the once mighty vessel still contained immense power, if only they could unlock it. Bonner moved quickly, his thoughts racing. The situation was dire. The aliens were getting closer, their ships visible on the distant horizon. The enemy fleet was formidable, far beyond anything the explorers had ever encountered. And yet, Bonner couldn't help but think of the human legacy that had been left behind. Humans, once underestimated and thought weak by alien races, had built this powerful warship. It was a testament to their ingenuity, to their unwillingness to be defeated, no matter the odds. As Bonner worked alongside the team, he realized just how deeply his perspective had shifted. He had once seen humans as insignificant, a primitive species compared to the galactic empires that roamed the stars. But now, in the face of this technology, and the sacrifices of the humans who had fought to protect it, he understood something he had never fully grasped before. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Then, as if to solidify this revelation, tragedy struck. One of the explorers, Voss, had been working near a damaged control panel when a shard of metal fell from the ceiling. It struck him across the chest, and he collapsed to the ground with a guttural scream. The others rushed to his side, but it was clear the injury was fatal. Blood pooled around him, his life slipping away. Bonner knelt beside Voss, his heart heavy with grief. The explorer's eyes flickered weakly as he tried to speak, but all that came out was a soft rasp. "Protect humanity's legacy," Voss whispered, his voice barely audible. Bonner's breath caught in his throat. The weight of the words struck him like a blow. It was the same message the human commander had left behind, the one that Nexus had echoed. The legacy wasn't just about technology or power. It was about honor, sacrifice, and the refusal to be forgotten. Voss's hand went limp, and Bonner gently closed his eyes. A fire lit within him. He had to protect humanity's legacy. He couldn't let the aliens destroy everything they had fought for. Voss didn't die for nothing, Bonner muttered to himself. We're going to make sure they remember us. The rest of the team nodded, their resolve hardening. They worked faster, more determined than ever. Zaria finally made a breakthrough. "I've got it," she exclaimed, her voice filled with triumph. "I've activated the main power grid. The warship is coming online." A rumble shook the ship as the massive warship's engines roared to life. The explorers barely had time to react before the ship's weapon systems powered up, sending a wave of energy through the wreckage. The dormant warship was now awake, its systems glowing with an eerie light. Outside, the alien fleet had finally arrived. Their ships moved in formation, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had underestimated the explorers, but now they would pay the price. The invaders prepared for the final assault, charging their weapons and locking onto their target. But they hadn't counted on what was coming next. The explorers had activated the warship's cloaking technology, and in an instant, they vanished from sight. The alien ships scanned the area in confusion, their sensors unable to detect the hidden human vessel. The explorers used this moment of surprise to launch a devastating counterattack. "Deploy drones," Bonner shouted. The warship's advanced drone systems activated, swarming toward the alien fleet. The sleek, deadly machines were equipped with high-powered lasers and cloaking capabilities of their own, making them nearly impossible to track. The aliens fired blindly, but their weapons failed to connect with their targets. In the chaos, the explorers activated the warship's laser cannons. Beams of concentrated energy shot out, tearing through the alien ships with unrelenting force. The aliens were caught off guard, their ships disintegrating in seconds. The technology that the humans had created, once thought obsolete, now proved to be the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. The tide of battle had turned. The invaders, once so confident in their superiority, were now fighting for their survival. The human technology they had deemed insignificant was now the key to their defeat. The warship's energy shields activated, absorbing the incoming fire from the alien fleet. The explorer's ship retaliated with brutal efficiency, each strike landing with pinpoint precision. For every alien ship that fell, the explorers' hearts swelled with pride. They weren't just surviving. They were fighting back, proving that humanity's strength could never be underestimated. But even as the alien fleet began to crumble, Bonner knew that this was only the beginning. The warship's power was immense, but it wouldn't last forever. They had to finish what they had started, to ensure that humanity's legacy would endure long after they were gone. With every passing second, the battle grew fiercer. The explorers fought with everything they had, knowing that their lives, and the fate of humanity, depended on it. The air was thick with tension, crackling with the energy of a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The warship, once dormant and abandoned, now pulsed with life as it engaged in the most desperate of conflicts. The alien invaders, who had assumed victory was a foregone conclusion, were beginning to falter. Their fleet, once vast and unyielding, was being picked apart by the sheer force of humanity's forgotten power. The explorers knew that their survival depended on one final desperate move, a move that could either guarantee their victory or lead to their ultimate demise. The warship's control room hummed with an almost palpable sense of urgency. The team was gathered around the central console, each member of the crew working furiously to access the warship's final weapon. The Doomsday Laser, a weapon of unimaginable destruction, was humanity's last line of defense, but it came with a heavy cost. To activate it would mean triggering a chain reaction that could obliterate everything in its path, including the warship itself. Bonner's heart raced as he stared at the activation sequence on the console. The weapon was ready, but it required a massive amount of energy to fire. He glanced at Zuria, whose eyes were filled with determination. "We need to make this count," she said, her voice calm but firm. "This is our only shot." Bonner nodded, but there was no mistaking the weight of the decision. He had never imagined that he would be the one to decide humanity's fate, let alone wield such a devastating weapon. He had seen the strength of humans firsthand, how they had fought back against the overwhelming alien forces with courage, ingenuity, and an unyielding will to survive. But now, it was time to test that strength in the most extreme way possible. The alien invaders were closing in. Their ships, sleek and deadly, surrounded the warship on all sides. The explorers had fought bravely, but it was clear that they were outnumbered and outmatched. The alien forces had underestimated humanity's power once before, but this time, the tide was shifting. Bonner knew that they couldn't afford to waste any more time. He had to make a choice: risk everything to use the weapon and destroy the enemy once and for all, or retreat and preserve humanity's legacy for another time. His mind raced with conflicting thoughts. On one hand, he knew that using the weapon would likely destroy the warship and everything they had fought for. It was a weapon of mass destruction, capable of wiping out an entire fleet in a single blast. But on the other hand, what was the point of preserving the legacy if humanity's enemies were allowed to go unchecked? If they didn't act now, the human legacy might be lost forever, swallowed up by the varied forces that sought to erase it. He looked around at his crew, Zuria, Nexus, and the others, who had become more than just fellow explorers. They were comrades, bound by the shared belief that humanity's strength had to be preserved. Bonner knew that the decision wasn't his alone, but in the end, he felt a deep responsibility to make the right choice. "Activate the weapon," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the enormity of the decision. "We fight to the end." Zuria hesitated for a moment, but then her hands moved over the console, inputting the final command. The room seemed to vibrate as the warship's energy systems surged to life. A low, ominous hum filled the air, signaling that the Doomsday Laser was charging. Outside, the alien forces closed in. Their ships fired relentlessly, the beams of energy streaking toward the warship. But the explorers had one last trick up their sleeves. The warship's shields were still active, deflecting most of the incoming fire. It wasn't enough to stop the aliens, but it bought them just enough time to prepare for the final showdown. "Prepare to fire," Zuria shouted. The crew braced themselves, knowing that once the weapon was unleashed, there would be no turning back. The warship's Doomsday Laser glowed brightly, the intense energy threatening to tear the ship apart. Bonner's hand hovered over the final control button. He could feel the weight of the decision in his chest, but he didn't hesitate. This was humanity's moment, their final stand. He pressed the button. The laser fired. In an instant, the entire alien fleet was engulfed in a blinding beam of light. The force of the blast was so immense that it seemed to distort space itself. The alien ships were vaporized in seconds, their once mighty hulls disintegrating in a fiery explosion. The sheer power of the human weapon was unimaginable, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of a species that had once been considered weak by the rest of the galaxy. But as the last of the alien ships were reduced to rubble, the explorers felt a deep sense of loss. The warship groaned under the strain of the weapon's activation. The massive energy surge had damaged critical systems, and the ship was beginning to break apart. The explorers had won the battle, but they had paid a heavy price. Bonner didn't wait to celebrate. He knew that the victory was fleeting. "We need to get out of here. Now," he shouted. The team scrambled to evacuate, heading for the escape pods as the warship's systems began to fail. The corridors shook with the force of the ship's structural damage, and alarms blared in every corner. The warship was dying, its purpose fulfilled but at the cost of its own existence. The explorers had activated the weapon, and in doing so, they had sealed the fate of the ship. As the escape pods launched into space, Bonner glanced back one last time at the warship. The ship that had once been a symbol of humanity's strength and resolve was now a shattered relic of a bygone era. But even as the warship was lost to the void, Bonner felt a sense of pride. Humanity had proven its worth, not just to the alien invaders, but to itself. The battle was over, but the cost of victory was high. The crew had survived, but many of their comrades had fallen in the process. The legacy of humanity had been preserved, but at a terrible price. Bonner and the remaining explorers drifted through space, their escape pods carrying them away from the wreckage of their greatest triumph. As the stars stretched out before them, Bonner's thoughts turned to the future. The warship may have been lost, but the legacy of humanity would endure. The galaxy would never forget the strength of the species that had fought back against impossible odds, and that, Bonner knew, was worth any cost. The survivors drifted silently in their escape pods, their faces set in a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and sorrow. The battle was over, the alien invaders shattered, their once invincible fleet reduced to ashes. Yet even in their victory, the weight of the cost hung heavily in the air. They had won, but the price had been steep, and the road ahead was uncertain. The legacy of humanity, once thought to be nothing more than a fleeting moment in the grand history of the universe, had been preserved. The explorers knew now that their mission had become something far more important than simply surviving. It was about carrying forward the story of humanity's courage, resilience, and unyielding will to fight for survival. As they navigated through the dark expanse of space, Bonner sat quietly in his pod, reflecting on everything that had happened. He had always seen humanity as primitive, weak, and insignificant, a species barely worth noting in the vastness of the cosmos. But now, after witnessing their bravery, their incredible ingenuity, and their willingness to sacrifice everything for their future, he knew the truth. Humanity was anything but weak. In fact, they were a force to be reckoned with. His thoughts wandered back to the moment they had activated the doomsday weapon, the moment when humanity's final stand had become an undeniable declaration of their strength. The aliens, who had once mocked humanity as little more than a primitive race, had experienced true fear for the first time in their existence. They had underestimated humans, and now they would never forget them. The human legacy had been etched into the galaxy's history, not through diplomacy or peaceful coexistence, but through an unrelenting determination to survive, to fight, and to protect what mattered most. Bonner's hand rested on the console in front of him, his fingers tracing the words that had become ingrained in his mind. "We are not weak. We are humanity, and we fight until the end." The message had come from one of the human soldiers' final journals, a testament to the resilience of a species that had never given up, no matter how dire the circumstances. Those words had resonated with Bonner, changing him in ways he could not fully explain. He had come to this mission with a single purpose: to study the remnants of a fallen species, to uncover their secrets, and perhaps learn from them. But what he had found was more than just technology or ancient battle strategies. He had discovered the heart of humanity, the core of what made them unique. It was not their advanced weaponry, nor their technological innovations, that had allowed them to survive. It was their spirit, their unbreakable will to fight, and the love they had for their people and their home. Now Bonner and the remaining explorers knew that it was their duty to ensure that humanity's story lived on. They could not let the aliens' mockery and dismissal of humanity's power be the last word. Humanity's history, full of both triumph and tragedy, needed to be told. They had fought against impossible odds, and in doing so, they had left a mark on the galaxy that would never fade. It was a story of struggle, of perseverance, and of triumph in the face of overwhelming adversity. It was a story worth telling. As the explorers made their way to the nearest habitable planet, a sense of purpose settled over them. They were no longer just survivors. They were the keepers of humanity's legacy. They would carry the memory of humanity's final stand to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, telling the story of the humans who had risen from the depths of despair to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. Bonner couldn't help but think about the soldiers who had given everything in that final battle. They were the ones who had fought for the survival of their people, the ones who had made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure that humanity would not be forgotten. The faces of the fallen soldiers haunted his thoughts, and he knew that their sacrifices would never be in vain. The explorers landed on the planet, and Bonner led the way to a small memorial dedicated to the fallen heroes of humanity. The monument stood tall and proud, a testament to the courage of those who had fought to preserve their species' legacy. The structure was simple, but it spoke volumes. It was a monument not just to the soldiers who had fought in the war, but to all of humanity. Their hopes, their dreams, their struggles, and their unyielding belief in the power of the human spirit. Bonner stood before the memorial, his eyes fixed on the engraved words. Here lies the legacy of humanity, a species that never gave up. They fought not for themselves, but for the future of all who would follow. Tears welled in his eyes as he thought about everything humanity had endured, the battles, the losses, the hope that had never faltered. They had proven themselves to be a species worth remembering. And now it was up to him and the other explorers to make sure the galaxy would never forget them. I never thought I would see this, Bonner whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I thought humanity was nothing special. But now I understand. You were more than just survivors. You were heroes. His thoughts were interrupted by Zaria's voice. We have a new mission, Bonner. We need to spread their story. The galaxy needs to know who humanity was, what they fought for. We can't let their legacy be forgotten. Bonner nodded. We will carry their story to the stars. We'll make sure that everyone knows what humanity was capable of, and what they still can be. As the explorers prepared to leave the planet and set course for their next destination, Bonner took one last look at the memorial. He felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. Humanity's legacy would live on, not just in the technology they had left behind, but in the hearts and minds of those who would hear their story. The galaxy would remember them, not as a primitive species to be trampled, but as a force that had fought for its survival and had triumphed in the end. The explorers set their course, determined to share the tale of humanity's courage with all who would listen. And as they ventured into the unknown, a message from humanity's past echoed in their minds. We are not weak. We are humanity, and we fight until the end. The legacy of humanity would live on, forever etched into the stars.